Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or as we like to say here at Shady Acres Wood Shop, howdy! Today we have a piece of cherry plum. This comes to us from our friend Tuffy Marginez. The piece is about 8 inches by 5.5 by about 2 inches tall. I'm going to take it over here to the drill press. I'm going to drill a clearance hole in the center there for my chuck jaws to set against. I'm going to drill a 5/16 inch hole for my 3/8 inch woodworm screw in the middle of that recess, and we are going to get this mounted up on the lathe and get to turning. This piece has just given me an unexpected hard time. I drilled my hole for my woodworm screw and the wood looked a little punky, but I screwed it on there anyway, and sure enough it wouldn't hold. So I pulled it back off, inserted a plug, glued it in there, let it set overnight, this is actually the next day, and drilled a hole in the middle of the plug and screwed it on there, and it still doesn't want to hold all that well. So I'm using tailstock support, something I might not do on a smaller piece like this. So I just want to flatten off the bottom, make a tenon on here. I don't know quite what shape we're going for. We might end up with flat sides, 2 flat sides, or we might not, I don't know. I'm going to be using a 5/8 inch bowl gouge. We're going to be turning at 600 RPM, mask and face shield on. We'll mark out for the tenon. I just want to raise my tool rest a little bit so that I can use a different tool. I'm going to use this diamond point tool to square up the sides of the tenon. That's good. We'll start working on a little lip here for our base to set on. What I'm doing here is just kind of upsweeping these ends a little bit so that when it's setting on a table it'll look like it's lifted up. And it looks like we've done that. I'm going to try and shear scrape this a little. Well, I said shear scrape, but I think I'm going to come in from the outside edge and up here to my base. I think I can get a cleaner cut that way if I can just see it. Still not getting it. It's just so bumpy. Now we'll try that shear scrape. Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding with my Sandoflex. I'm going to sand all the edges and bark inclusions. And then I'll switch to my 2-inch disc sander, starting at 80 grit, and with the lathe spinning in reverse at about 400 RPM. A little faster than normal because I'm sanding a lot of air out here. and I don't want to fall into that gap and get smacked as it comes around. And I'll show you both of those things as soon as I get my mask on. Now this is 180 grit, and I think both of these flat sides have saw cuts on them, and I kind of like to leave those a little bit. I just want to smooth them out, so I'll probably just use this to smooth them. And that'll leave the saw cuts there, but they'll just feel better. But it's kind of a nice look. I like it, especially on a piece like this. Then, like I said, with the lathe spinning in reverse about 400. I will finish the sanding up through 400 grit, and I'll bring you back when it's time to put some finish on here. I'm not sure what we're going with yet. See you in a bit. I've decided to go with sanding sealer and shellac for this piece. The grain is just gorgeous, don't you think? And then when you see the top side with the bark on there, oh wow. And I did sand these flat edges just lightly, so the saw marks, and those saw marks come from Tuffy using a handsaw. He hand saws these pieces because he likes to. Yeah, that's just beautiful. It always is. Then I've put a little sanding sealer in this little can, and I've got my little acid brush, and I'll just brush in where the bark shows on the bottom here. We'll get most of it from the top side. And it looks like this will probably take 2 coats of sanding sealer, and then I usually go with 2 coats of shellac. Any more than that and you get kind of a real glossy finish, and I prefer kind of a semi-gloss. Now I don't show the shellac application because it looks exactly like this, because it is exactly like this. A brush and a rag, that's all I use. I don't do it any different at all. See you in a bit. I have the piece turned around with the tenon mounted up in the chuck. I'd kind of like to keep the bowl inside of this. I kind of like that little part there. That'll make it a small bowl, but I'm going to run right off the edge here anyway, and this is a low part over here. We'll start with that. We might change it as we go. We're going to be turning at 680 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. I can't really see that. I need to check and see how close I am. You can see I'm just kissing it right here. Just rubbing it. So that's good. Well, this piece is only, what did I say, 2 inches, 2.5 inches deep? I can't really remember. So we're getting there. We're about 5/8 of an inch thick on the bottom. See how we're looking. We are looking good. We're done. Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding with my Sandoflex. I'm going to use 120 grit, and then I'll switch to 180, and then that's as fine as I'll go. Then when that's done, I'll switch to my 2-inch sanding disc. I'm going to start at 80 grit, and I'm going to work up through 400, and I'll show you that as soon as I get my mask on. And I'll come at that from all directions possible, get in all of those little places. And then with the lathe spinning forward at about 360. You see that wants to kick this a little bit. I think that's this piece here, hitting it when it comes around. So it takes a light touch. But it'll go pretty smoothly. So again, up through 400 in there and 180 out here on the bark, and I'll bring you back when it's time to put some finish on. See you in a bit. This is going to be one pretty piece. The inside of this sanded up so nicely. It's smooth as silk. And when you see the contrast of this beautiful grain against that bark, oh boy. So of course I'm putting on sanding sealer and then shellac after that. And I've got some sanding sealer in this little can, and I've got this brush. And I have to be careful not to run over the top edge onto my freshly finished surface on the outside of this piece. I'll bring you back when it's time to take off that tenon. See you in a bit. I'm going to try something I haven't tried before. Tom and Annette at Acks Wood Paste sent me some of their product to try. So I'm going to start with this abrasive sanding paste. Now I typically feel like I cannot use this kind of thing in most of what I turn. I have used some. Gary sent me some and it worked well. But for most of the pieces I turn with all of these hills and valleys and cracks and crevices and whatnot, I just feel like I can't really use this kind of paste because it'll get inside the bark and get inside those cracks and I'll never get it out of there, and so I've been afraid to. But this particular piece isn't too bad. I'm not going to do the bark, obviously. And I'm going to turn the lathe on kind of slowly, about 200 RPM, and spread it around even better. I'm going to pick the speed up, maybe about 500 RPM, 550, and I'm just going to keep rubbing it until none comes off on the paper towel. And that looks like it's got it all off of there. They sent me a kit, and the second part of the kit is this polish restoring paste. So this is supposed to give it a pretty good shine, I guess, and even a better feel. So I'll just put some on a clean spot on the paper towel and rub it in good. Yeah, see, it is getting inside those cracks and natural voids. I'll just use compressed air and blow it out. Okay, and then at about 200 again, just rub it in. And then a clean spot, and we'll pick the speed up. About 550, I guess, is where we were. I just like this little piece, and I just think it might be worth the extra effort. Oh, I forgot to blow it out of there, didn't I? Dang it. Yeah, see, now it's spread all over inside and all over my shirt. Luckily, I'm not going out dancing or anything. One last clean spot. Woo! Oh man. Yeah, that makes quite a difference. I wish you could feel it. That's going to do the trick. Let's get that tenon off. I have a block of wood mounted up in the chuck. It has a non-slip surface on it. I'm going to place the bowl over that and bring up my tailstock. I still have the center hole there for reference. So I'll just drive the live center into that. Bring up my tool rest. We'll spin the piece up and see if it's running true. Hold my thumbnail against the edge of the tenon, and sure enough it's quite true. So we'll turn the speed up to about 600 RPM. I'll take a 3/8 inch standard grind bowl gouge and commence to removing that tenon. We'll check for clearance, and we have clearance. I like to leave this area raised up a little bit. Just adds kind of a nice visual point of interest. I'll just keep working it away. Now that's pretty small, so I'm going to switch to a 3/8 inch swept back bowl gouge so I can get in there a little closer. Now I'm going to slow the speed down to about 400 RPM. I just want to look at the integrity of that. Make sure there's no rotten wood or anything there, so it's not going to break when I don't expect it to. Now I want to get a little bit closer and a little bit higher, and I'm going to slow the speed down to about 200 RPM. And I'm going to apply the bevel of the gouge against the bottom of the piece. Right hand on the gouge, left hand on the switch. And when that little nub stops turning, we'll know we're through. Sometimes it disintegrates like that. That's okay, we can live with it. Then I'll just take this over here to the workbench, sand it up, sign it, get it finished, and I'll be right back. Well, this is just a beautiful piece of cherry plum, don't you think? Look at that. Oh my gosh. It's just gorgeous. I love the bark on these. I love the grain of the piece. I did leave Tuffy's saw cuts in there. I sanded them so that they're smooth, but they're still visible and you can still feel the texture of them. There's the bottom all finished up. Now I think this sat in the tree just like this. So this is, of course, the outside. It's got the bark, and I believe this would be the orientation. It's larger here at the bottom, like a tree would be larger at the bottom. Sticks out a little bit more. So just imagine that standing on a curb somewhere or in someone's yard, looking out at people and traffic and animals and flowers and who knows what. That's what I like about these natural pieces. You can just imagine what they've seen, what they've been through. So beautiful. Thank you, Tuffy Marginez, for sending this along for all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up, please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you very kindly. I truly appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber, you might consider becoming one. I put out regular videos about one a week, and I'd like to keep in touch. An easy way to subscribe is just click my picture you see there near the end of the video. Your comments are always welcome and I read all of them. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.